Clinical death. Your heart stops right now. What happens in the next 6 minutes? Doctors call it clinical death. Your brain doesn't switch off like a light. It fights for minutes. In 2013, researchers at the University of Michigan recorded something strange in dying rats. 30 seconds after the heart stopped, brain activity spiked higher than when fully awake. Gamma waves, the same waves tied to conscious thought. Case of an 87-year-old man. Fair question. Does this happen in humans too? In 2022, a dying 87-year-old man was hooked to an EEG for epilepsy. He had a heart attack, mid-scan. For 30 seconds around his death, his brain produced the same patterns as memory recall, the same patterns as dreaming. Dr. Ajmal Zemar led that study. He said the brain may replay life's highlights, one final reel, right before the end. Transition, a single patient, but here's the thing. One patient isn't proof. It's a clue. Now go back further to near-death experiences. NDE statistics. Roughly 1 in 10 cardiac arrest survivors report the same core experience. A tunnel, a light, a feeling of peace. Sometimes their own body seen from above. Doctors call this an out-of-body experience. Skeptics have an explanation. Skeptical perspective. Oxygen starvation in the brain's visual cortex can create tunnel vision. And light. Fighter pilots report the same thing. Under extreme G-force. No death involved. The Pam Reynolds case, 1991, but it gets worse for the skeptics too. Some patients describe events they shouldn't know. In 1991, Pam Reynolds underwent brain surgery. Her body temperature was dropped to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Her heart was stopped on purpose. Earplugs blocked all sound. Later, she described the surgical saw in detail, its pitch, its shape, the conversation in the room. Doctors couldn't explain it. Critics still debate her case today. An unexplained case. Then came a bigger test, the AWARE study. Led by Dr. Sam Parnia starting in 2008, hospitals placed hidden images near the ceiling, only visible if you floated above your own body. Over 2,000 cardiac arrest patients were tracked. 39% had some awareness during CPR, but not one confirmed patient saw the hidden image. Fair result. Inconclusive, not disproven. One man did recall real events, accurately. He described staff and equipment. He was clinically dead. For a window of at least 60 seconds, Parnia calls it a real yet unexplained experience. So which is it? Biology or something more? Let's leave the brain and look at the body, because after the brain goes quiet, the body keeps working. Briefly, cellular death. Cells don't die all at once. Skin cells can survive for a full day. In 2016, a Canadian study found something odd. Genes in dead mice kept switching on. For up to 4 days after death, some genes tied to embryonic development, as if the body tries to reboot itself. It never works. But the attempt is real. Stages of the body. Meanwhile, the process most of us know starts. Algor mortis. The body cools. About 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit every hour at first. Then livor mortis. Blood settles with gravity. Purple patches appear within 2 hours. Then rigor mortis. Muscles stiffen. It starts in the eyelids and jaw. Full rigidity takes about 12 hours. It fades again after roughly 36. Decomposition. Then bacteria take over. Trillions of them. Your gut already holds about 39 trillion microbes. Once the immune system stops, they spread. This is putrefaction. And it has a timeline. Greenish skin discoloration by day 2 or 3. Bloating from gas by day 4 or 5. In cold, wet conditions, something else can happen. Adipocere. Grave wax. Fat turns to soap. It can preserve a body for decades. In dry heat, the opposite happens. Mummification. Natural mummies have been found in Chile. 7,000 years old. Older than Egyptian mummification by 2 millennia. Forensic entomology. Forensic scientists use insects to track normal decay. Blowflies arrive within minutes, sometimes seconds. They lay eggs almost immediately. Larvae hatch within 24 hours. Their growth stage tells investigators the time of death. This science has a name. Forensic entomology. It has solved real murder cases, down to the exact day. The end of the biological process. Eventually, only bone remains. In dry soil, that can take 10 years. In wet, acidic soil, far less time. Even bone fades eventually, to dust. So biologically, the story ends there. Transition to the cultural section. But humans never accepted that ending. Every culture built its own answer. Ancient Egyptians weighed the heart against a feather. Maat, goddess of truth, held the scale. A heavy heart meant the soul was devoured. A light heart meant eternal life. In Aru. Ancient Greeks imagined a river instead, the Styx. Charon ferried souls across it. For a coin. Heroes went to Elysium, everyone else to Asphodel. Norse mythology, in Norse belief, half the fallen went to Valhalla, the other half to Freya's field, Folkvanger. Hinduism, in Hindu tradition, the soul doesn't end, it returns. Reincarnation, shaped by karma across lifetimes. Buddhist teaching describes a middle state, the bardo, up to 49 days between one life and the next. In Tibet, some bodies were never buried at all. Sky burial returned the body to nature directly. Christianity, in many Christian traditions, judgment decides heaven or hell. In Islamic tradition, the grave itself holds a trial. Two angels question the soul before final judgment. In Mexico, the dead aren't feared. They're invited back. Dia de los Muertos welcomes them home for one night. Conclusion on the cultural section. These stories differ, but they share one root. Every one of them answers the same fear. That consciousness simply stops. Completely. The science of consciousness. So what does science actually say about consciousness? Most neuroscientists hold a simple view. Physicalism. Consciousness comes only from brain activity, nothing else. When the brain stops, the mind stops. Full stop. Alternative theory, but a minority push back, with a strange idea. Physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff proposed consciousness lives inside microtubules, tiny cell structures, governed partly by quantum mechanics. Most physicists remain unconvinced the theory has never been proven or fully disproven. It sits in an uncomfortable place between science and speculation. Summary of facts. Here's what we actually know, stripped of belief. The brain can stay active for a short window after the heart stops. The body cools, stiffens, and breaks down on a fixed schedule. Roughly 10% of survivors report vivid, structured experiences, and every civilization in history refused to call it nothing. Maybe that refusal says something, on its own, not proof, just a pattern worth noticing. DMT theory. There's one more angle worth mentioning. DMT, a compound naturally found in the human brain. In 2019, researchers detected it in dying rat brains. Rick Strassman had proposed this theory decades earlier, that a DMT surge might explain near-death visions. The theory remains unproven in humans, but it's plausible. Reconstructed case. Now, the reconstruction. What a typical case looks like. A 62-year-old man, cardiac arrest, in an ER. The monitor flatlines at 9:14 in the evening. Nurses begin chest compressions immediately. He later says he felt himself lift above the bed. He watched the team work on his own body. Calm, no fear, just observation. Then a tunnel opened, with light at the end. He says it lasted what felt like hours. The monitor showed 4 minutes and 20 seconds, then his heart restarted. On the third shock, he woke up crying. Not from pain. He said he didn't want to come back. Cases like his are documented repeatedly. Across different hospitals, different countries, different beliefs, the details vary. The core pattern doesn't. Frightening experiences? Here's the twist most people miss. Some near-death experiences aren't peaceful at all. Researchers estimate up to 1 in 5 are distressing. Fear, isolation, a sense of void, not light. These cases get far less attention, but they're real, which raises a harder question. If the brain builds these experiences, why 2 versions? Some researchers point to expectation and belief. Others point to how oxygen loss hits the brain unevenly. Nobody has a final answer. Not yet. Synthesis. So where does that leave us? With 3 separate stories running in parallel. The brain's last burst of electrical activity, the body's slow, scheduled breakdown into matter, and thousands of years of belief that refuse to let go. None of them cancel each other out. They might all be describing the same event differently. A biological process, wrapped in a human need for meaning. The 6-minute resuscitation window, 6 minutes. That's roughly the window doctors watch. After that, resuscitation rarely succeeds. Whatever happens in there, it happens fast, and most of it we will never fully verify. Not with today's instruments, maybe not ever. Recap of the 3 lines of inquiry. So the next time your heart skips a beat, remember what's actually waiting on the other side of silence. A body with a script it already knows. A brain that might replay everything one last time. Bacteria, insects, and chemistry finishing the process right on schedule, down to the hour, and thousands of years of stories trying to answer what's left. Not one of them has been proven. Not one disproven. That gap is where the real question lives, and a question nobody has fully answered. Maybe that's the most honest ending science can give, an open case, not a verdict, an open file, still being written one study at a time. Somewhere right now someone is crossing that 6-minute window, and when they come back, if they come back, they'll add one more data point. And to a very old question, what happens after death? We still don't fully know, but we know more than we did 10 years ago. And that gap keeps closing. Study by study. Conclusion. So maybe the real answer isn't a place. Maybe it's a process we're still learning to read. 6 minutes, trillions of cells, thousands of years of belief, all pointing at the same closed door. One day someone will open it. For real. Until then, it stays exactly what it's always been. The last honest mystery we all share.